This whole day was about a pastry. Aloha and welcome back to WANDEROUS, the show designed to encourage you to go outside your comfort zone and to do crazy things from time to time like I do. I'm your host, Andrew Crusoe. It's my real name. Hold for laughter. Today I want to tell you a funny story. So it's no secret that I don't have the best memory in the world. I've told that story of why I don't have the best memory in the world on another show. If you're interested, comment. I don't usually link to Ascendant, but I got a pretty bad concussion in 2019. So sometimes when I'm going through these photos, all this stuff comes back to me. And sometimes I go, what was I doing there? This time it was a little bit different. It was neither of those. I reviewed the photos twice, and then I realized that this whole day was about a pastry. It's true. So just 2 days after the story I told last time, I went into town, and I went into town specifically to get a dairy-free, gourmet, delicious, incredible, authentic French pastry. All of those things can be true in the same bowl. It is true. There is a wonderful place which I will recommend till the ends of the earth, even though they didn't reshare my video I made about them. It's called Au Fond. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's O-F-A-O-N, which is a Marseille exclamation. It's like, oh, wow, or oh, crap. Au Fond. And it's sort of a pun, but basically it's the name of the best patisserie in Marseille. It's near Vieux-Port. It's about a 25-minute walk away from La Panier, which we talked about last time. So I get in there, and it's this cute little dining area. You know, they got it's like a bakery. They've got the glass windows with all the things they're showing off. But there was something was wrong. What was wrong? See, my memory's not great, but I do my best. Oh, yes. I think that they were so busy, they could not give me anything. So I put in an order, and I was so confident that things would work out that I left my super durable, collapsible silicone bowl. I left it there. Luckily, their English was pretty good because, like, once again, my French was crap. So I left my silicone bowl there, and I said, I will come back. When do you close? When is the latest I can come back? And I believe they said 7 or maybe 6:30. And I had a confidence in myself. I said, well, yeah, I think this is good. I'm going to do some exploring, and I'll come back. Little did I know that when I started wandering around Marseille again, I would be swept up in another little adventure. So as well as I can put together the details from the photos, because I don't remember all the details, I basically met like a really sweet, I met this woman and her friend, and who she was giving a walking tour. Now, I don't think she was French though. If I recall, she was actually German, but she spoke some French, a very smart woman, and we just clicked immediately. She's a bit older than me, and she was happy to, I was like, we were just talking randomly. I don't even know how this happens. This is something I get from my mom. I just talk to everybody, as long as I've eaten, and as long as I'm not low blood sugar, I'll just start talking to people. And she's like, yeah, come, you should, I like talking to you. Please, I'd be happy if you came. And I'm showing my friend around Marseille. I love this city. I'm only here for another week. And I was giving him a walking tour, and you're very welcome to join us. So we started walking around, and I started seeing corners of Marseille I had never seen before. And I also noticed the reoccurring hidden little Easter eggs in Marseille, the art, which I will not describe. I'm going to see if anybody can figure out. Of course, it'll be the people who are following the show for a very low $10 per month. You get all of the photos that accompany every episode. Every week, I release one, sometimes 2 dozen really high quality photos that were originally in raw format, I remaster a lot of them and really make them pop. And I'm very proud of the photos that I have from Marseille. They're kind of otherworldly. So we ended up walking around, sort of around the La Panier, but not quite in La Panier area. And there was all these like small little, there was a weird tiny door, a lot of weird mysterious things, little fudge shops and places. And just, I mean, God, this one photo of there are beautiful, like inclines and stairs, and the afternoon light hitting the pastel pink and orange buildings is really gorgeous. And of course, there was more street art. There were pufferfish wearing 3D glasses for some reason, but they had human faces. I mean, I'm not an art historian, but just some of the best graffiti I've ever seen in my life. You know, there's this one that was sort of a kung fu guy chopping a fish in half, but it was an anime style, and it was all white with orange accents with some black shading, really eye-popping. We got over to one of the museums, the old charity museum, La Vieille Charité, and she was very quick to point out that there were these hidden animals, and this is going to be in the bonuses for this week too. I got to include this because they're really odd. There were these, on the corners of the buildings, there were these little crouching, I want to say they were like little dogs hidden under the eaves of the buildings. So that's one example of when you actually fall into a walking tour, which I did several times, you will, and this is obvious, but it's worth remembering. Walking tours can be one of your best investments when you're in a great city like Marseille, especially if you can set aside enough time to really enjoy it. We walked down Rue Bayard, Ballard. I'm so sorry, I can't pronounce anything. Eventually we'll get to a country where I can pronounce the language, I promise. Very beautiful squares, public spaces, some of the most cozy, lovely public spaces. I think many, I hate to say this, but they've got it figured out better than a lot of countries in terms of public spaces, and probably because of the rich history involved. And I look at my watch, and we've been wandering around, and I look, and it's 6:00, and I have to run down there. I've got, in theory, I've got like 25, 28 minutes, a little past 6. And I check Google Maps, and it's, I can get on the one of two metro lines, and I just book it. I say, hey, it's great meeting you. Maybe I'll see you. And then we kind of make a tentative plan. Her and her friend will meet at there's this museum called the Museum, which is basically right on the water, near that lighthouse that I described last time. So I'm running like a crazy person down to the metro. I'm waiting for the train. The train's not coming, but the metro is decorated with a bunch of sports ball stuff. And there are, I don't know why, like circles and balls and basketballs, and they've projected light, like silhouettes of people jumping around. I don't know why. I'll put this this is in the bonus too. So I'm just rushing to get there. It was either 6:30 or 7. I had to get there before. I totally lost track of time, and I'm running like a crazy person. And all these things start running through my head, right? So, okay, if they're locked up, are they gonna like throw away my silicone bowl, which I've been traveling with for months? It's really useful to have that when you're traveling. What's going to happen? Are they going to, what's going to happen here? Are they going to be open tomorrow? Is this going to be, have I offended them? Mostly garbage thoughts, which you learn they're garbage thoughts once you've experienced that enough. And I make it in there. I want to say it was 1 minute before they closed. And I recall at that moment, oh yes, this is where I ran into this woman. Because the whole day had flowed together so well, so wonderfully, that I didn't even, I just forgot where it all started, which can happen, especially if you've had a traumatic brain injury. So they were very gracious and actually let me eat some of this. Oh, I haven't described this thing yet. So it was this beautiful round pastry, just chock full of blueberries. But the really special part, and I have photos of this too, but the really special part was all of the cream was vegan whipped cream, and it was the most delicious, not too sweet, balanced, so smooth, amazing, smooth like a dream, mixed with these fresh, the whole thing was vegan, fresh blueberries. I was just blown away. I was on cloud nine. I was in some kind of vegan patisserie heaven because I'm lactose intolerant. So there's certain things I don't even really have the choice, if you know what I mean. I will just my body will fall apart if I suck on a cow nipple. Yeah, I did say that. So I was relieved. I paid the €5 for this treat, which was honestly, thinking back to it now, based on the craft of how this was put together, was a good deal. It was fair. And at the time, €1 was almost exactly $1. So yeah, I spent $5 on a very fancy dessert, but it was worth it. It was incredible. So I think I took the metro back up, and I go to Musim, which is this it's really amazing reflective glass building right on the edge, right of the harbor. And there is this interesting lattice. It's a very organic style that they've done, bordering the edge of this huge glass front facade. And I found, I don't know, it's hard to describe it. It's just like the building becomes invisible at certain angles. People who see the photos will appreciate that. And I'm trying to, I guess I don't have any more stills. I believe I have a video of this I can try to dig up that I put on TikTok and YouTube at the time. Because above Musim, which I'm going to include a photo of this, is an amazing, the roof of this building, the lattice work, it continues. And there are all these really funky shadows cast by this lattice work above you. And there's all these tables. And there is even a bridge that extends over the road and connects to another building. And I don't know if I did that this time or a separate time. I believe I went, oh, it must have been. That's right. Oh, shoot. Wow. Okay. Well, this is a very special episode because this is going to be the last episode about Marseille, because I don't really have much else to talk about in Marseille, and I really want to get to Paris. But you know what was really, really special about all this was I look across, I'm at the harbor, I'm at basically way in the front of Viewport, the old port, and I look back and I see Notre Dame de la Garde towering over its limestone hill, this beautiful cathedral perched on this hill behind me. And in front of me, the lighthouse that I wanted to get to, which was still not reachable. It was still on the other side. It's on this special area that's like this secure artificial peninsula that they'd built. But I got a nice picture of the lighthouse, which I was happy. I got to look at the light. I like lighthouses, okay? And that was really, I said hi to her, and she had to, we followed each other on Facebook, and it was all sweet, and everything was sweet. And I said bye to her and her friend, and I thanked her for such a fun whirlwind tour of seeing all this art and all this interesting, some of it graffiti and some of it just very incredible painting, not unlike the paintings that I saw on within Le Panier 2 days before. And I really wanted to get a well-rounded feel for the city. And needless to say, I was pretty tired the next day. I don't even have any photos from the next day. I don't have anything from August 17th at all, which is kind of weird. I probably just recuperated. It might have been a weekend. Meanwhile, my friend, I had two friends in Germany, one of whom was a big reader of my books. She was sending me photos of her guest room where I was able to stay, and I was just amazed. She's a big lover of Hawaii, as I am, and there was all these tropical decorations and just a really cool world-traveling woman that was retired and just immediately felt like an old friend, like an auntie. And I was looking forward to this. She was sending these photos of the place. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. But she's pretty far from me. I got to go to Paris first. But, most Germans, they're planning ahead. It's very strategic. It's very good. So my last real little adventure was the person I was staying somewhere in South Marseille via Airbnb. It was the cheapest way to stay in one place, to be in one place, to focus on getting some video editing done, which I did that month, to focus on editing podcasts, which I did in that month. And, I just realized I didn't even tell you. I'm going to tell you this now. Oh, it's so funny looking at the bedside pictures. That's so funny. None of that stuff I still have the hairbrush. Got to have the hairbrush. By this time, I'll mention, because I think I've been teasing this for a while, I'd finally figured out how to sleep in that room because it was on a main street and it was unseasonably hot. This was 2022, okay? So if you look up the weather in Europe in 2022, you will notice in the summer of 2022, there were pipes bursting in London. People were losing their minds. Really, it was scary. And that heat wave came all the way down to where I was. Now, Marseille normally can get pretty hot in the summer. That's not a big surprise. But the way it was sustaining the heat, even into 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. was really challenging for me personally. So after a lot of experimentation, I figured out that there was only really one thing I could do. And I'd like to thank Sony. They're not a sponsor. But I had to not only put on my Sony noise-canceling headphones, which are not perfect, but they're pretty good. Not only did I have to open the window so it wouldn't get hot in the room, that was the real problem. If I could keep the window closed, it would have blocked out the traffic noise. But the traffic was pretty noisy and it was hot. So they created this challenge, right? The only thing that worked was leaving the window open. I believe I also had a fan and playing brown noise, which is kind of like white noise, playing brown noise from an app on my phone through the headphones with noise canceling on. So not only was noise canceling on, but I was basically playing like ocean wave sounds that were nonstop. That was the only way I could sleep, 7 or 8 hours at night in that place. And I finally solved it. If you've ever done anything like this, please let me know. I'm very curious what people do that aren't me when they're in sonically challenging environments. This is, I think, to this day, still the most challenging thing for me would be like the sound environment of the space, probably because I have very good hearing. So I'm sensitive and I'll pick up on a bunch of nuance and sounds that I don't really want to hear, but I don't have control over how good my hearing is. You try to put stuff. I mean, I tried earplugs. Yes, I can hear you saying. I had the Goopy Goop earplugs and I played around with that. I'd played around with that in Hawaii. And the problem with that is that I get earwax buildup and it's not good. My ears don't like that kind of earplug. That's probably why I like over-ear headphones, like the Sony ones I had. They were the WH-1000 XM3s. I'll probably put that in the show notes. They're good. They're old. They have XM5s now, which look a little more sexy, but they're pretty similar. The technology hasn't changed that much. And my last real little adventure was to get eggs for my host. She'd been very nice. She'd been providing a small breakfast in the morning, and I was the first person she ever hosted for more than like a week. I was there for 4 weeks because it gave me a really big discount. Airbnb. Oh, another travel tip. I could do a whole episode about this. Many places will give you up to 50%, like half off per day if you book a 4-week minimum on Airbnb. This is an Airbnb thing. It can happen on booking.com as well, but look into that. Sometimes, though, this is the danger. Sometimes hosts don't know that they have that turned on. And they might even be annoyed and they might even decline, and even though you've done nothing wrong, because some people don't know how to read directions. I didn't say that. Who said that? So I would definitely check in and be like, hey, so this amount, I'm being there for this many days, even though it's in the interface, even though they should read that. It's always good to clarify the details before you meet, before money is exchanged. That's a good thing. It's just a good thing. You don't want last minute surprises, or you don't want your thing to be reversed because you might go and pay it and they might cancel it and then you have to look for another thing. It's just like, maybe it's better now, but at the time that Airbnb, you gotta be a little careful. You gotta be careful if you're going to be in one place. Be aware. Make sure that the host is aware that you are getting a discount and it's going to be this amount, and that's why you're picking the place. And maybe even say, hey, I'm a really clean person and I've list some similar experiences, places, maybe you could even give them a landlord reference if they ask for it, if it seems appropriate. So yeah, I went and I walked over. It was like, I don't know, 15 minutes. I wanted to get the exercise anyway. And I got her some eggs for €5. Oh my God. And I believe it was because I actually think I owed her. Yeah, because she picked up something for me. That's right. It was because I owed her €5 because she picked up something for me the other day. So I got her something for €5. And it all worked out. And I gave her a copy of 10,000 Hours in Paradise, which I had ordered from Amazon's direct print-on-demand service. They make very excellent print-on-demand books. And I looked at the back of the book, and it had actually been printed in Italy and shipped to me. I'd also sent one to my great uncle, which I mentioned, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes ago. I mailed him one from Marseille, and he was very touched to receive that. Didn't take too long to get over to him in the west side of France. And I took a few parting photos of the center console. I haven't really described the place too much because I want to protect my host's privacy and whatever. There's not that many hosts in south of Marseille per se. But it was a nice view of the Calanques, like the not strictly Calanques. I think the Calanques have to be by the ocean to be Calanques. I could be wrong. So I had already booked a train to Paris, which was, I believe it was something like $80, which was a little more than it should have been, but I was running out of options to get up to Paris. It was cheaper than flying. And they definitely jacked the prices up during the summer, which it was. I might have gotten it for like 65, but I had to change trains in Valence, the TGV, which is the train Grande Vitesse. Grande Vitesse. I love this. Grande Vitesse means great speed. The great speed train, which it was pretty fast. And I take the metro up and I get into, the huge train station. I get all these flashbacks of when I got there 4 weeks before, when I had arrived at night and I'd met that really kind guy from Mexico who helped me with the metro, and he ended up like giving me the ticket for free. It was so cool. And I ended up sending him an ebook because it was such a nice thing for him to do. It wasn't too confusing. It told me what platform to get on and sat down, and it was mostly empty train. It was pretty chill. And that train, I was on that train. I had to get it pretty early, say goodbye to my host. But that train I think I was on the train for about 3 hours, which is about halfway. Then got off on the platform, and then I felt like I'm in no man's land, right? And I was nowhere. That's pretty much what you hear when you're waiting in no man's land. You're just in a train station that you're never going to leave because you're transferring, which is always I don't know. You're always like, I hope I get on the right one. So I catch the right train at the right time, thank goodness. And, and they had screens and everything. And my anticipation is building. I'm finally going to see Paris. And I'm not going to lie. I haven't been a Paris nerd. It's not like I was dreaming about Paris like a lot of Japanese people do, bless their heart. But I certainly knew its historical and cultural significance. I was mostly excited, frankly, about the architecture. I was more excited to see, the architecture than to actually, because I've been in a lot of big cities. They're really not, in the West, they're really not hugely different. These days, I feel like everything's just a riff on the Roman Empire. But I found myself getting really excited. You know, I was like, I'm actually gonna see this. I don't know, kind of legendary city. One of the top tourist destinations in terms of volume of people. I think it's number 3. Number 1 is Istanbul, which we're going to get to later, probably because it's such a midway point for everything. But we finally pulled into Gare de, what does it say? Gare de Lyon, which is a bit confusing because Lyon is a city south of Paris, but the main train station, one of the main, it's one of 2. This is the big one. Gare de Lyon. Get in there. I got out and I was struggling. I was like, the easiest way to do this, actually, to give euros to, was to ride the bus. And if I rode the bus, I would have a bit of an incidental, like, cross-section tour of Paris as I went across, because the train station is on the east side of Paris, and I was staying way over on the west side, really like the west side, not Versailles west side, but pretty far over there. So I asked them for some help, and luckily the weather's decent, and I was able to get onto the bus, and I see the Eiffel Tower through the bus window. And I go, oh, I'm really here. I finally made it. And I think that's a good place to end it for today. It's been a sweeping episode, I feel. And that would be my first place that I visited after dropping off some things to my couch surfing host, who was just lovely. I believe he's at the 5th floor of a very French apartment building. And it had the coolest little lift, the coolest elevator I've ever seen, completely mechanical, like one of those things where you see the door, you know, where like the door is just ironworks. You stick your hand through it and you can lose your finger, kind of an elevator. It's great. Must have been 100 years old. It worked, and you could only fit maybe 1.5 people into this little elevator. I loved it. And I get in. I push the button. I've got my pack. I've got way too much crap because I've got way too much stuff on me because... reality check, I've only been out of the US for 2 months at this point. I haven't realized the things that are not essential yet. I haven't really figured out how to pare things down. But I would. Whew. Yeah, so this week's photos are going to cover quite a bit. I'm really excited to share them with you. If you're interested in supporting the show and supporting future novels and books and other fun things from me, you can go to patreon.com, patreon.com/Hello Crusoe, the word hello, Crusoe, like Robinson Crusoe. And you can also get show notes for this episode. You can see Aufon website. You can see The Guardian. I was very impressed, left them an amazing review. What did they say? They said, Jerome Raffaelli and Kevin Yao wanted to create vegan pastries that everybody would crave, and they succeeded. Inter France, all the Le Monde, all incredible. Les Marseille au fond, au propose un dessert, végétal. Végétal is like their word for vegan. Without gluten. Oh yes, I forgot to mention that. There's a lot of gluten-free stuff. Mais pas sans gluten. I need to learn more French. Okay, I'll stop trying to pronounce French. I apologize. But if you do not already follow the show on Spotify, shame on you. Because it's the best way to stay in the loop. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss any of these. This show will eventually get on all the other platforms when I have time. Thank you so much for listening, and I love hearing your comments. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you next time. Aloha and ahui ho.